Hi guys, it's Monday and that means it's Jazz Day. Today we're going to be looking at the music of Maynard Ferguson. Back in the early 70s, I was a young trumpet player at high school, and I had a private teacher that was always talking about Maynard. And about the same time I started reading Downbeat magazine, and they had a number of commercials every month about Maynard and his new MF horn that he developed for Holton. So it kind of got me interested in what he was playing, because the way they described his music and the energy and the excitement of the band, I thought I'd check it out. Now, I lived again in smaller towns in Ontario. We didn't have a lot of access to music. A lot of our albums we bought at department stores like Sears or Woolco or Kmart, and mainly it was more popular music. So when we made the trip to Toronto, we would always go and check out A&A or Sam the Record Man's on Yonge Street. And one of my first purchases on Sam the Record Man of Maynard's music was an album called Screamin' Blues. Now, this album appears in a couple of different styles. The other version is called Blues Roar, but it's basically the same album. And this was recorded back before he left the United States. And it's got some interesting players. Trumpet, we've got Don Rader here, Bernie Glow. Trombones, we got Wayne Andre, Irby Green, and Bill Watrous. But this also included some tuba players, piano, drums, of course, were Mel Lewis in this case, and a harp player. And one of my favorite songs off it, and this was the very first song I heard him play, although through recording, was one called Every Day I Have the Blues. And it was just amazing. As a trumpet player that grew up on music like a Val Hurt or Herb Alpert, to hear what this guy was doing was just unprecedented. So we started listening to Maynard, and around 1974, there was a festival in Toronto. And at that time, they were sponsored by cigarette companies. Things were quite different. And it was the Belvedere King Size Jazz Festival. And this is just a copy of the outside of the program, but to give you an idea who was there. We had Count Basie, Woody Herman, Buddy DeFranco, Carmen McRae, Louis Bellson and his orchestra, Maynard Ferguson, Dizzy Gillespie, Super Sax, Mo Kaufman, Peter Appleyard. But we had made the trek down because we knew Maynard was there. So a group of us got together, we caught the bus to Toronto and went for a 2-day festival. This was held at Varsity Stadium up on Bloor Street in Toronto. Now, it was a 2-day festival, Saturday, Sunday, and I think for the 2-day tickets it was like $8. It was just ridiculous, the price we were paying back then. Now, another interesting story about it, and it kind of ties in with Maynard, is Louis Bellson was there, but he didn't bring his whole band. He brought some key players like he would often do, and then he filled in with some players that he found in Toronto. One of them on sax being Pat LaBarba, who just finished touring with Buddy Rich. Guido Basso, who was a well-known trumpet player in Toronto. But Louis Bellson brought with him his lead trumpet player, who at the time was Roger Ingram. Now, Roger Ingram went on in later years to play lead trumpet for both Woody Herman and Maynard Ferguson. And like I say, I got to know him after he was touring with Harry Connick's band, and it was funny when we realized we'd both been at the same festival together in 1974, unbeknownst to each other. And now, at the time of that festival, there was a couple of albums Maynard had out. And I'll just grab 2 of them here. And basically, they were the set list for the concert. Now, he had had some good albums over the years. I mean, almost everything was a great album. The MF Horn series, MF Horn 1, 2, and 3, he recorded in England, and then he'd come back to North America. And he recorded an album that was a live album they did at Jimmy's in New York City called MF Horn 4 and 5, Live at Jimmy's. Now, while he was still using some of his players from overseas, one notable player we have in here on trumpet is Bob Summers, who had joined the band. Now, Bob Summers appeared during all the concerts I saw through the summers of 74, 75. He also went on to be a regular trumpet player for Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band. But this one includes a lot of the music that they played in these live sets. It features baritone saxophone player Bruce Johnston. And I mean, he was amazing. There's some great solos on here that he performs. And he was exciting to listen to. He was exciting to see live. The other album that made up the rest of the sets he was playing was, let me see if I can get that in there for you, Chameleon. And this was basically the band he was using before the tours I saw him on. We had Stan Mark and Bob Summers, Lynn Nicholson on trumpet, Randy Purcell, Jerry Johnson trombones, Andy McIntosh sax, Bruce Johnston again on baritone sax, Rick Patrone on bass, Alan Zavod on piano, and Dan D'Imperio on drums. And to me, these were probably two of the best albums he had put out for capturing the excitement of live performance and the energy and excitement of the music he was playing at that time. Now, unfortunately, the next release, they kind of got away from this format. I mean, these two were produced by Theo Macero, and he did an excellent job. Next thing we brought in Bob James, who turned things way upside down, made it very commercial with the follow-up, Maynard Ferguson, Primal Scream. He brought in singers, he brought in strings, he used mainly session players from New York, and I love the session players. In a future episode, we'll be talking about the CTI albums that Creed Taylor did and how he used the local session players, and there's some excellent guys, but it didn't sound like Maynard. It didn't sound like the music we had experienced for the last couple of summers with what he was performing. It was just wrong. It was glitzy. It didn't really have the band out front. And even at that point, from there on, I'd bought a number of his albums, and while they were interesting and there was some good stuff, sometimes the choice of music and what he was playing just didn't seem to have that kind of energy and excitement he had. And as it went on further, it again became less and less about that big band sound. Now, later on, he put together the Bebop Nouveau, and he kind of got back to his roots, and there was some really good stuff, really focusing on the bands in his later years. And luckily, I've had two players that I've taken lessons with, Keith Fiala and Roger Ingram, that were both players with Maynard, and had lots of great stories and things to say about him as a boss and as a player. Excuse me. So, just to recap, probably for me, and it may just be because, I mean, these were the concerts I saw, the first ones that I'd experienced the excitement of what he was doing, and they may have a special meaning for me, different than people listening to them for the first time. So I'm not going to say they're the best albums he ever did. To me, they're the ones with the most meaning and the ones that captured the excitement of the band during those concerts in the mid-'70s. Live at Jimmy's, MF Horn 4 and 5, and, of course, Chameleon. Okay, thanks for stopping by. On Wednesday, we're doing the rock show, and this week, I'm going to call it rock, but the performer we have, or that I'm going to feature, has done it all. The singer's done country, rock, new wave, Broadway, sang in front of a big band as a crooner. I mean, it's very hard to pigeonhole this singer down, but we'll see what we can do. So come on in back next Wednesday, and we'll see who it is. Thanks a lot. Stay home, stay safe, and we'll see you on Wednesday.